Cahill, Professor Dolores Cahill, Chairwoman of Irish Freedom Party, straight back from Tipperary. Here we go.
Thank you all for coming today. Thank you all for coming today, Garmagat. It's a pleasure to see you all here. So I came from Tipperary and via Kildare. I have a project to try and re-inspire interest in our Irish heritage and culture and traditions. And I'm calling it the Custodian Project. And we're going to hold a little event in Athy on the 1st of August, Saturday, from 12 o'clock, if anyone's interested. So I suppose what we need to do, this is about education. And I think for 20 years, it's only people are becoming aware that what our children have been taught is not in their best interest. And for about 10 years in the international and national education system, I have been saying shocking things like, there is a difference between men and women. So there actually is a biological difference between men and women. And if you want to diagnose prostate cancer or ovarian cancer, it's actually good that you know that and you're taught that. And what we should not have, as I have been saying for many years, is half of the university saying that that's not true, and half of the scientists and the medical profession saying that it is true. So I think what we need to do is take a good hard look at the education system all over the world, okay? So maybe some of you are aware that there is kind of agendas going on in the world that are actually very divisive. So, well, and it's a national and an international agenda. So the agenda is to separate people, to separate families, to separate fathers and mothers from each other, to separate generations. So to try and say, you know, I think we should apologize to the older generation for how they were treated in the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Those bosses behind me.
And I would like to apologize on behalf of scientists, government advisors, and the medical profession worldwide. No, but I think, you know, somebody should. And I think it's shocking how they've been treated. And I think if I was in a care home, you know, a lot of people, Ireland had the highest number of people died in care homes in Europe, in Ireland. So 62%.
Scandal!
Well, I suppose what we want to say is we want to learn lessons, right? So if anyone is aware, the kind of agenda is going on is that they want to have this scare every year or two. So if people are aware that this actually, so more people have probably died from how incorrect treatment than actually from the coronavirus. And I've been privileged to be involved worldwide, and pharmacists and nurses have come, and doctors from 5 countries now, to say that the elderly were given a prescription of morphine instead of actually being given prescriptions so that they wouldn't die. And also in Ireland, as we know, they were not given enough oxygen. So that they actually died in a lot of pain, and it's quite cruel. So while the last 6 months have been that we're doing all this social distancing and masks where there's no evidence for, to care for people, the people that should have been cared for were the 62% of people that were in care homes, and they should have been given proper treatment. And I would just say, so, you know, that is, and we are fighting for those people, and we will be publishing a report to try and call for a public inquiry for the new Taoiseach. And it's not in a way because, but the inquiry is to learn lessons so it doesn't happen again, okay? And we also have to just be honest, the coronavirus is a seasonal virus. It's mainly in the Northern Hemisphere in February and March. And if you look at the deaths, the main deaths from coronavirus were in February and March. The spikes that happened after the lockdown were to do with the treatment. No influenza actually kills people like that. So it's actually to do with the treatment. Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right. So then, now we want to move on to education, okay? So I suppose we want to care for our elderly, and with education, we just want to be honest. So what the education system is doing is teaching our children to be victims. And as we know, they are teaching sexualized education to primary schools, which is entirely inappropriate. And it's psychologically destructive for those children's well-being, okay? Everybody knows it. So what we have to do, and that's why we're talking about free speech, okay? Because if there's, 50 years of research to say that children in primary school, they don't need to be taught about that. In fact, they don't need to think about it. Just leave them alone, let them be children.
Hands off our kids!
And listeners, I would be saying the best carers for children are their families and their mothers and their fathers. And when we've looked through the history of the Irish state, when the state has looked after women or children or the elderly, they haven't done a good job. And a lot of the articles and research that's come out to talk about issues in families are exaggerated. And they have deliberately, through the courts, removed fathers from their children. They have removed grandparents, and they've removed older generations and aunts and uncles. And I've been a scout leader for 10 years, and they have made it so difficult to volunteer, right? We all had to change our scout clubs into charities and have trustees. So when you look, there is an insidious agenda to destroy families and to destroy multi-generational relationships. And what we need to do is to get back and say our children are our future. So I just finish off, we have to cherish them, okay? And we also have to keep them healthy. And anything that goes into them should be safety tested. We have to do a good hard look at the education system. And we could have a group, if there's teachers here, to look at what is in those books that they're teaching in. And our children are not victims. Our 11-year-olds and 14-year-olds are not victims. And any kind of education system that starts, Martin Luther said, judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And the education system and the university system, we have to say it's actually racist to try and have marches based on the color of people's skin.
Yes! Yes!
That is actually discrimination. That is actually discrimination, okay? Because what they're doing in the education system is telling people they are victims and saying that it's the amount of melanin you have. So what they're doing is a hierarchy of black people over brown people, over red people, over yellow people. And Martin Luther King said, judge people by the content of their character, and the people who get the jobs should be the best people for the job. Okay, the best people for the job, and we should be encouraging our children and teenagers and university students to be the best there is. And real diversity is to have that everybody is different, they're all specialists. You could be a gardener, a painter, a carpenter, an engineer, and you should be the best person that you can be, and you should get the job based on being the best person, not what sex you are, not what color you are. So we have to take a good hard look at the education system. It is not working for 20 years. People have been lied to. The children have been said they're victims. They are not victims. Get rid of any kind of sex education from primary school, and maybe it doesn't need to be in secondary school. Cherish our children. Care about them. Does anybody know, he wants me to sing a song, I don't have any voice, but would you join, does anyone know Buchalón Éireann, or no, or Ron Naveen? So can someone join me with the Ron Naveen? Any good singer?